Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to our fourth masterclass in the last 4 months on AI. Today we have Gerald Tan, or GT as he's often called, who's going to speak to you a bit about how to position yourself as a thought leader in AI. And of course, before you become a thought leader, how to build up your expertise in AI. Now, this masterclass is actually a part of our official AI learning track from the KCL Product Management Career Accelerator program. We've held a number of master classes. GT, mind going to the next slide? We've actually held a number of master classes over the last few months, most of which have been exclusive to our learners. So we've really taken you on a journey from that very first introduction to AI for product managers, what you should know as a product manager, onto some really in-depth classes that were exclusive to learners in our program about how to use AI to become a more productive product manager with really specific instructions on prompts, et cetera, and then how to manage and integrate AI into your own products, which gets quite technical. Now, today's class, as I mentioned, is about that ability to build your expertise in this topic and eventually to become a thought leader. And over the next few months, between this fall and early next spring, we have a number of new AI masterclass topics that we're going to deep dive into, and these are going to be exclusive to learners on our Product Management Career Accelerator with Kings. I will say that we are also in the works of planning a standalone AI for PM course, which we'll get into even more detail, and we will share more news with that as it develops. But that's not in the immediate future. What's next is those masterclasses, and then today our session with GT. So GT, please go ahead.
Thank you, Justin. Can you hear me okay? Fantastic. Great. So welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here and really happy to have all of you. Just a very brief background of myself. So I started life in finance. I did a lot of FP&A, and then I did a career pivot into product management, specifically in video games and edtech, mostly as a service. And I've had the privilege to work with some really big global brands. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from failure too, made a lot of mistakes, but thankfully, it's given me the experience that I needed to be who I am today. Also then transitioned to more product leadership roles. So firstly, group CPO, and then obviously product CEO with two of the world's, I guess, biggest brands, one in online chess and one in education. So this is me. As I said, I'm really happy to be here, and I hope you have a really good session today. So high level, this is how the structure is going to be. For every topic, I will talk and give you an awareness of the key areas, and then I'll bring it back to the relevance of the PM function. Now, why awareness only is because we only have an hour, and I know not all of you are experts in AI. In fact, what is an expert in AI, right? So what is important is to surface to you some of the more important concepts so that you can take away and do your own research. At least you know it in the back of your head what it is. And I will, at certain points of the presentation, give you this logo here for you to look for. And that is actually practical steps you can take away, because what I want to avoid is it's a very theoretical view and you can't take anything away. So what's important for me, for Justin, for fourth rep, is that you are able to actually take some tangible steps. In terms of the content, it's actually split into three. And because this is an AI masterclass, I will spend half the time on this side here. I want to really talk about a few things, specifically the hot topics that I think you really should have a view of. So the first bit is about building expertise, and it would be about the state of play. What are the big companies? I'm going to focus on big tech because there's like thousands of AI companies, and I don't really want you to get drowned into this space. So let's focus on the big tech. When you feel you're comfortable, you can go deeper, right? And what are the tools that you use? Then, of course, what's important is hands-on experience. I'll do a demo on ChatGPT just to show you what it's like. I'm sure all of you have used it before, but I'll just show you some of the things that I've come across myself. And then we go over to you, which is building your influence and ultimately building brand. This is connected. So this is external, this is internal, right? External to you, internal to you. So I will help you find your niche. Technically, we all have an automatic niche, and it's what we do. We are all kind of experts in our own stories, and I really want you to have the confidence to share that. But of course, and when you put AI onto it, it becomes really unique, right? I would love to hear your stories. But of course, to be a thought leader, you really have to know the bigger niche. I'll help you find it. What is thought leadership? And of course, most importantly, uh, what communities that you should be part of as a start. And then we're going to talk about brand. This is very relevant to really about building jobs. And then I will share with you a framework I use, and I hope that you can use it too. Now, notice this is a continuous loop. In video games, we always talk about the concept of a core loop. So you do something, you get better, and you do the same thing, and then you just keep getting better, right? So this is a loop in itself. Okay, so I'm gonna start, and I just want to start by saying that I'm not a magician. You're not gonna be an automatic thought leader after this hour, but hopefully what it is for you is you can actually really understand some of the concepts, okay? And some of the areas that there's no answers. Everyone is still trying to figure out the answer. And I'll start here because I think this phrase is truly a phrase that I believe in. So James Clear, he's the author of the amazing book Atomic Habit, and what he said is it doesn't matter if you are a beginner or an expert, as long as you're on the path. If a beginner is on the path, all they need is time. If an expert is off the path, they won't be an expert for long. And I can say this is true because AI moves so quickly. And if you're just half a year away from this space, you can actually be left behind. So it's a level playing field. And I think that's the good news for all of us. So without much ado, let's start on building expertise. CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, he actually said, AI cannot replace human qualities like creativity, empathy, and judgment. Instead, AI will amplify our human capabilities and help cultivate our creative spirit. I believe this quote, and I think this is really what embodies what this masterclass is about. You, the human, is truly the most important person in this whole equation. And AI, they may replace some things, and they should, right? Like you can't calculate faster than a calculator, but it should, with you, make you a more productive, efficient, effective person. And I really look forward to the day where it is a really good partnership. Let's start here. So high level, in this section, I want you to make a note of all the key terminology for your future research, right? Justin alluded to some of the master classes already. I won't talk too much about that, but I will be providing some big tech websites. So make a note of it. Take a screenshot of it. I will share with you some chatbots. I have another screen ready to go, and I'm going to flip between the two. So excuse me if you see me flipping between Safari and Chrome. I won't talk about the courses. Justin talked about it earlier, but I also want you to pay attention to the hot topics because there is no real answer to these areas, and it's good that you know about it, okay? So this represents how hard it is to keep track. And my topic, my tip for you is don't try to know everything. It's not possible. As what Elon Musk said, when you learn something, look at the trunk. Focus on the trunk, not the whole tree, not the leaves. Focus on the trunk. Understand the principal concepts. And then you can branch out into the branches, right? And so the branches is metaphor for a more specific topic, a niche. The leaves represent even more detail. So, but take a step back. Don't be overwhelmed. Never, ever be overwhelmed. Go at your own pace, okay? But I want you to focus and keep up to date. And I'll show you how later in this masterclass. I'll start here, overview, and just let me tell you a story because it's quite technical, quite wordy. I will keep this as simple as I can. The foundations in a large language model. So what that is, and we covered that in masterclass 1. I won't go into too much detail, but the foundations of it is that data, which is what we feed into the large language models, allow AI to compute and perceive the inputs. And they do it via pattern recognition, right? Could be words, could be syntax, could be images. It's all translated into data that the large language model can actually understand. And then, of course, you have the algorithms, which is basically a collection of step-by-step instructions to perform a task. Now, what's different is, unlike a calculator where you type a few digits in and something comes out, AI is a bit more clever than that, and I'll show you why. But of course, if you group a bunch of algorithms together, you have neural networks, right? So and the idea is to mimic the human brain. And then when you start training the model, there's three other components. You have the learning bit. And when I say learning, I mean it's not us learning. It is the AI that's learning, right? But how it learns is that through these algorithms, we provide them input. And sometimes the human doesn't provide input. The AI itself is learning through the environment. And I'll talk about that more in the next slide. But the idea is it maps input into outputs. And the decisions is more like predictions. It's not always accurate. And that's why sometimes we always say, hey, be careful. AI can hallucinate, which is code for it's not factual. So be careful when you're quoting AI, right? And how it works is that we assign weights in the neural networks so that it knows what is more important, what is less important. And as you can see already, this is where bias comes out, right? Because if I put more emphasis on something that is not neutral, then it will pivot to that side. Then, of course, it optimizes for accuracy. And the idea is that it continuously improves the performance, tweaking itself so that it can give the human the best answer. And once again, there's no absolute answers. Okay, maybe 1 + 1 is 2, but when you talk about more complex problems that is not easily solvable, there is offering probabilities. So there's always trade-offs to know. So when you're getting input, you're getting output back from AI, as a human, you need to take a step back and just kind of think through this, do your own research, right? Because what's important is the next step. It really extrapolates and it really predicts all the types of answers that you may want. So all this blue bit happens in a large language model, but us as humans, we come in, right? So we fine tune it. We manage the trade-offs. If you overfit something, so you put too much data onto something and you be very specific, it's very niche and it cannot go outside too far. Whereas if you underfit it, it's way too general. So both models are not really useful because imagine if you need precision, both of those will give you the wrong answer. So as humans, what we get out of it is great. We get some really good output. Usually it's in the form of decisions or predictions, or even comes back as text, images, video, audio, or a combination of those. So all of this happens in an LLM, and that's where us as humans interact with it. I talked about learning, and I think as a PM, it's actually very important for you to know what this is. And that is how machines learn. So this is kind of technical, but take a step back. All you have to do is know that there's a few types of learning, and you just need to know the very, very like high level overview of it. Supervised is when you give a labeled data set. So this means I tell the AI, hey, this is my input, and you give me the output, but I tell you what I expect the output to be. A very simple example is, here's a picture of a dog, cat, 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 and you hope that when you ask, hey, give me a representation of I don't know, a Shih Tzu, and boom, a dog will come out, right? That's label. Unlabeled is where you only give it input, and you don't really tell it what to do. Your algorithms will know what to do. So maybe it will cluster some. So like, for example, you have a lot of information. It can summarize things for you very quickly, right? So it clusters all the information together in a way that even as a human, I won't see it. Now, why this is important for you as a PM is because you need to pick the right model with your teams, of course, when you want to implement it into your feature. Otherwise, you're going to have a very, very strange looking dog cat hybrid. So that's why it's so important to know what is the right thing to use. Reinforced learning is not something you will use unless you are trying to create something that AI learns from the environment. So here are some best examples that I can give you. So there's a lot of machine learning happening in the real world. You have recommendation systems, and Netflix will tell you what film to watch. And obviously Amazon does a great job telling you what you should be buying. There's also fraud detection. You can have image and speed recognition. And of course, this is reinforced learning, right? Self-driving cars like Waymo, Tesla, they learn from the environment. And there's a lot of use cases. And there's still so many areas that machine learning can do something, but it's not doing as much, right? Can do more. So like healthcare, diagnostics, legal, accounting, trading, etc. So take a step back. You actually already in this world as a user. And if you can find some common grounds with your features in your day-to-day, maybe machine learning can be something that you can actually adopt with your tech teams, right? So on that note, I'm going to now talk about the big tech, because I think it's really important for us to recognize who the big companies are, who are the big players. I have some links here that I think you should make a note of. It's really important, because I feel that even if you don't know every other product in the world, at least know these few. So I'm going to circle through a few. I'll start with OpenAI. They are not the first in AI, but they probably made it a bit mass market, right? When ChatGPT came out all those years ago, well, not too long ago. And it took us all by surprise about how amazing AI can be. But don't just be on the surface. Go to the release notes section, through the help section, and read what's new. Because once you develop a good basic of what it is, then I think it's really important to also understand where you can see what's new, because it moves very fast. The latest model is O1. When I started to think about this deck and this presentation, it was model 4, and that's not a long time ago. And we are seeing a lot of leaps and bounds. If you had to follow a leader, Sam Altman, the CEO, is a really good person to follow. He writes, and he has a very strong view of what AI could be. So I'll just do a very quick example of why I like ChatGPT and I subscribe to it. I put this not too long ago, like 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, where I gave it a bit of data and I said, okay, give me a retention curve. And these are the data. This is all dummy data, by the way. And it plot, and I also told it to summarize, and it actually plot a few graphs for me, and it gave me a summary. The summary is actually really good. I won't go into detail, but the graph is not correct because I asked for a retention curve, which is a decay curve over time. So I prompted it again to say, hey, can you make it by monthly cohort instead of retention period? Because it's showing me by retention period. And then it plots a really nice looking curve for me. This is exactly what I expect. All I did was 5 minutes of work, right? So it will never substitute me as a PM because I know what to ask. But what is really good is that actually ChatGPT can do many, many different things. So if you had to choose one, this one is actually a really good one to go for. If you're a paying user, it has different models, some good for reasoning, some small model, but very good for quick thinking, and some is just very generic. So I feel that ChatGPT is the one that actually is quite wide in variety. But of course, there's other big players. The next one is Gemini by Google. Again, this is the website. Google does a very good job in actually explaining what's coming up and what's new. What I like about Google is because it's linked to the search, it can actually search the web. And it's actually quite almost real time, and it gives links. The person to follow is Jeff Dean. He's the chief scientist, chief data scientist there. And what I really like about Google is that I use a lot of Google productivity, like Google Sheets, Google Docs, and Gemini is integrated into the ecosystem. Well, if you talk about Google, you also have to talk about Microsoft. I'll come back to Anthropic. Microsoft is similar to Google in the sense that it is integrated into all of its suite of products. And I also use a lot of Excel, and I really find that Copilot, which is integrated across Office, I can see that both Google and Microsoft, this is going to be something very useful in the future when it's all seamless, all within one ecosystem. Then I'll come to Anthropic. Anthropic is a very interesting company. They have Claude, which is their chatbot. And what is really good about Anthropic is that it really focuses on AI safety. So rather than just take data from all over the place, they put security as one of the first, like safety is actually one of their main tenets. And it's really good for coding. It's really good for projects. If you have a team, You can have multiple chats because every other product is single chat. So when you talk to it, the stream is just one stream. Whereas for Anthropic, you can create a project, have the chats in there, share with your teams, and then you can open a new project, have your chats in there so that it's like a folder. You can keep things all in one place. Last but not least, there's also Meta. Why Meta? I put in here. In the UK, we actually can't use it unless you use a VPN, but it's really useful because they are open source, meaning anyone can actually go in and help fine tune it. And what's really interesting about Meta, and I'll come back to the last example later, is they are combining it with their physical product, which is a really good use case. Whereas up to now, everything is virtual. Okay, so these are all the big players. These are the people that you should follow. Now, I'm not going to do any disservice to all the other upcoming like Amazon. Elon Musk with XAI is also a very, very strong LLM. And there's so many new things. And I haven't even talked about all the good work that China is doing. There's like, if you look at the global scale, there's a lot of development in AI. And I think it's such an amazing time to be alive, to see this all starting and to be part of the wave that goes with it. Okay. But of course, what's practical for you is the prompts, because there is no point knowing about these companies without knowing how to use it. Ultimately, we need to use it. So I have a very simple, but I would say a very good prompt framework where you have actions, you have outputs, context, examples, constraint, the tone, the format, and the persona. So for those of you who attended Masterclass 2, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat a bit of it, but think of it as a recap. But what is important for everyone on the call is that there is a right way to prompt, and there's an even better way to prompt. As an example, if you were to prompt ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, what must I do as a new product manager? It will give a really good answer. But if you fine-tune the prompt, imagine you, ChatGPT, are a VP of product for a peer-to-peer food sharing service. Obviously, this should be whatever your company is. And I am your new product manager. So now you set context. So now you are my manager. I'm new, right? You as many things as you can. Create a summary of my task for my first 30 days in an easy to read bullet point format. Exclude any HR related tasks, and then include some examples. And then you will see a big difference between the two. I'm not going to run it because I've done it once before, but all you have to do is just use more of these like all of these pointers, and you will have a very more, I would say, a more tailored, a more step-by-step, very specific to time, but definitely more comprehensive prompt. Okay. So taking it a step further, we are PMs. What must we be very good at? We need to be very good at writing a product requirements down. And so if you take a step back, what is in a PRD? Again, this is just what I think is a framework. You may have something different. You may have something similar. The idea is that you give it a context, the problem, what are the solutions, and it's all defined here. And what can you help me from a production perspective? And if you prompt this, it will give you what you need. So as an example, I am a product manager for an energy drinks comparison website. Write a PRD to create a new feature which allow my users to write a review and leave a star rating. Specifically include happy paths and edge cases. And the output would be like this. So of course I can do this in real time, which I'm gonna just quickly do. So I'll come here, I'll type it here. Now, guys, just to be clear, this is no substitute to doing real work, right? But it really helps you because it gives you the framework. And what you want to do is then, as a human, go in and tune it, okay? And you tune it not just by refining the prompt, but by actually adding significantly more context to what you want to do in your day-to-day. So it gives me the objective, success metrics, is starting to write a feature for me. It gives me a few bullet points. Now, if you are, let's say, experienced in creating star systems, you might say, oh yeah, 1 to 5 star is good. Average display makes sense. I can filter, but you can also add something to it. You can say that, oh, I would like to let the person write a review within this section, not in a different section. So you can go in and tune it, right? Then it starts to even give you user stories. I didn't even ask for them, but it starts to do it. And of course, you have to take a step back, right? Because this is what it thinks is the right thing to do. But I would say take this, tune it with your teams, and then you can continue with it. But what I wanted to show you is that it actually picks out a lot of these areas: the problem, who's the customer, the overview, the solutions, and then of course the technical UX, the success metrics, and there's more, right? It's a very, very long, it keeps going on and on and on. And of course, a timeline, and you can always refine the prompt. You can even say, hey, add me some metrics, give me some milestones, and if you really want to then go to the next level, what are probable ideas that should be in there, but we want to discard? It's whatever you want. And that brings me to the refinement of the prompt. So there is an importance of refining, and I'm just going to copy this to show you what it is. So refining is basically from the prompt that you've asked, it's going to improve it. And just to show you why refinement is important, I'm a beginner to ChatGPT. Can you provide a comprehensive list of verbs to use, including the reason for each verb? Why verb is because all the actions are verbs. Okay, so for example, write is a verb, right? So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to give me a bunch of verbs, and of course it's gonna do that. Thank you very much. So it's gonna say analyze, observe. Yep, all very good. Yep, so good. So it's even gone to more action-oriented verbs, which is great, right? But imagine we want to refine it deeper so that it's specific to an LLM. And I'm going to copy the same thing, and as it's writing, thank you. I'm going to stop you here, and I'm going to add just one word in LLMs, and let's see what comes out different. And now this is more tuned to LLM. So just from here alone, explain, summarize, and define, you can already see that it's now very focused on what you need to get it right. Okay, so the refinement is a very, very important step. So moving on, this is what I want you to do in the next 14 days. Okay, so make a note of this. Pick a chatbot. You can pick anyone: ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot from Microsoft, Gemini from Google. Pick a feature you've already made. If you're a student, you just have to pick a feature from your course. Okay, and I want you to use this prompt. And don't write this down, just take a step back, right? You are a product manager for your sector, just include whatever sector. Write a product requirement doc to create a new feature, which whatever feature you want, ideally something you've made before so you can compare your notes, and include whatever you want to include, specifically include a success metric and see what happens, right? And then you can compare what you've done to what it's done. And then you can make a list of anything that an AI cannot do, right? Despite repeated promptings, because you can keep prompting it and refining it, but after a while, you're like, you know what? It's actually easier for me to tune it myself. But I do want you to try to refine the prompt. So one tip for you is start with from the above prompt, because then it knows to reference what's written, okay? And then of course, what I do want you to do, and this is gonna be a bit of a reading, pick 2 or 3 companies I've listed. Again, start with the big tech, and then I want you to really understand, just read a bit of their release notes, get familiarized with the language, and just start building your view, okay? Now, so with that, I'm gonna come to a bit more complex topics. And so I just want you to just listen, because these are relevant to you, but they require quite a bit of experience from a technical perspective. I'll just go high level, why you want to fine tune your LLMs. And when I say you, I mean all of us, because unless you are a big tech with like hundreds of millions in R&D, we're not going to be fine tuning any LLMs anytime soon, because it's very expensive. Computational power, you need a lot of data and a lot of time, right? And all of this basically costs a lot of money. So what you want to know is 2 things: the low rank adoption, which is called LoRa, and a retrieval augmented generation, which is called a RAG. And what this basically is you're taking a very small subset, so few parameters, not all parameters, and then you load what you need train. So this is really good if you want to have customization to your brand, like distinct branding. This is what you want, right? Just one thing very specific, could be an art style, could be the way you do your spreadsheets. And it's really good for rapid prototyping because it's fast, right? It's very small, very cheap. Alternatively, if you need real-time data at any one time when you're doing this, you're gonna need a RAG because the RAG contains a retriever component, so it retrieves from the internet, and you need something that generates a response really quickly. So this is good for anything that needs real-time retrieval, like customer support tickets, and of course, if you want to generate content that requires real-life information, a RAG is better. But the takeaway from this point is that both of it requires little bit of the LLM, not the whole LLM. Okay, so this is only for your awareness. There's also a thing called the AI agents. It's not as it's not 007. Maybe it could be in the future, but an agent is a program that is written that can perceive information. It's not just a 1 + 1 is 2. No, that's a program. The difference with an AI agent and that program is that AI agent can actually self-learn. I think this is critical, right? These are all the components. It can plan, it can use tools, it can process information, it has memory, it can retain information, it can reason. I would say these two are really important to distinct it from a traditional program. And the point is, it's something that we already use. Alexa, Siri, when you go and play chess on chess.com and you're playing with the bots, those are all agents, or maybe playing against first-person shooter enemies that are not real. So these are all bots, right? They're all agents. But if you take it a step further, where you even program like those vacuum cleaners that walk and that cleans for you, you can almost say that those are all agents. But the beauty is they all self-learn. That is a critical distinction. Now, what's difficult is that it's a black box learning. You don't really know how it learns. And I think that's kind of why AI is sometimes referred to as like a bit of a black box. And I think what's more important is to think of the future. Imagine where there's a world where you have not only one agent, but agents talking to agents within your work environment, telling each other what to do, and you're controlling them. A really good example of a multi-agent system is, for example, in a warehouse, in an Amazon warehouse, where one person looks at a bunch of screens and all this swarm technology is moving around, taking boxes and delivering them to you, right? So this is something you can use in your day-to-day work. Think about all the areas that an agent could help you. Because, I mean, imagine there's a humanoid AI agent that can not only be your bodyguard, but can also make pizza for you, right? Like, what can go wrong? One more thing to know is actually artificial general intelligence. So high level, I would call this as AI that has cognitive human abilities. Now, we don't have this yet in the world right now, but it is able to understand nuance behind any question and perceive emotion. But of course, it's all purely theoretical at this stage, unless it's not, because the CEO of OpenAI, he wrote a blog, and I'm going to share with you the link, that he thinks it's possible that while some scientists think it's going to be the year 2300 before we see it, he thinks it's going to happen within a few thousand days, perhaps. So maybe it's not as far as we think. But what it is like, for all of this thing that AI does well, it has the ability to add that human component, to think like a human, to perceive things, to think outside the box, to be creative, to show interactions and social interactions and empathy. So, and that is both amazing and scary at the same time, right? So that's the first thing I think you should really pay attention. This is one of those hot topics. But this one is, I think, the one that we leave on a positive note, and that is Meta. I think they announced this last week, where they have new glasses. I don't work for Meta. I don't get any kickback for asking you to buy their new glasses, but they have a new AR augmented reality glasses called Orion, and it has AI integrated. And I want to show you how cool it is. by taking you to their website. Yeah, 1 second. Yep. So imagine you're watching this, you're wearing the glasses, and then it tells you what are all the ingredients. That's not the best thing. The best thing is it tells you what you can make out of it. Pretty cool, right? So I think there's so many use cases for AI. We don't have to be so forward looking and think through everything that hasn't been thought through just in your day-to-day work. I'm sure there's so many areas that you can do. So what I want you to do in the next 7 days is take this link. So this is Sam Altman's essay about the intelligence age, where he talks about AGI, right? And I really want you to have a think for yourself. What are the consequences? Not for the world is too big. Just think for yourself from a PM perspective. What are the consequences to you? And I'm sure you have fellow PMs. Talk to them. What do they think? And have a discussion. And because I want you to ask yourself, can a human PM ever be fully replaced? And if you think it's a yes, when? Because seniority counts, right? Experience counts, and you can't really train experience. Not everything can be trained with data. And as I told you earlier, just think about the AI agent from a day-to-day operations perspective. And on this note, I want to kind of end on a like just be wary. AI is not perfect. There's still a lot of limitations, and I want you to be aware of it. Starting with, I personally don't believe it can replace you, Mr. Miss Product Manager. You should really know your own users better, and you really need to understand your user problems because there is no substitute, no excuse, right? Also know that you're only as good as your prompts. Think of prompts as telling someone some instructions. If you cannot articulate what you're asking for, you cannot expect what comes back as perfect, because if it does, it's luck. So think of prompts and think of how you can be better with your prompts. Having the right vocabulary works, so know all your verbs. And I think you must understand what looks good and what's not good. There is always bias, there's always hallucination. Hallucination means something presented as fact, which is not fact. So take a step back, read what you're reading, and just know that you need to do your own research too. Check, check, check. Okay. Some AI takes data from content owners who haven't really given their permission, especially when you're doing AI on images. Be very careful where it comes from, because artists, creatives, they put a lot of effort creating some new content. Yeah, and it's nothing worse than being taken away and regurgitated in a new form, but it really belongs to them, right? So just be very wary of copyright and ownership, and why you should be respectful of where the model trains from. And last but not least, don't ever ask AI for something that's competitive, like a USP, unique selling product for your business. Why? Is because everyone has access to the same information. Unless you use the LoRa or the RAG, guess what? Everyone has exactly the same information. So just be careful that the creative element, until super intelligence is here, you as the human still have it. Okay. Uh, on that note, we are kind of at the halfway point, and I'm going to now focus on you building your external influence. So the good news is, if you are a PM at work, you actually have an automatic niche. So you don't have to think so hard about, oh, where am I going to find my niche? I tell you, it's very simple. Use this very simple framework. Your day-to-day impact is already a place for you to be a mini expert in, okay? Whether it's improving features, whether you're driving business results or product results, or whether you're improving your team's productivity, you can pick any one of these, and you can already start asking some questions from an AI perspective. For example, decision making on building with AI features, right? Crafting user experience and using AI to help you, whether it's the tools or whether it's something in the thought process. Even using machine learning, as I explained earlier, on building agents, or even driving ideas for innovation. Again, be careful of the USP point here, but even in this track that you do on a day-to-day basis, and even if you don't even if you don't focus on your industry, you just focus on your product to start, you are already a semi-expert here. And if you keep fine-tuning it, you keep sharing this with your community, with your company, with your teams, you are already a mini thought leader, right? So don't overthink the thought leadership. What you need to do is get on the journey, take the first few baby steps, and you're on your way there. And once you have a good view of what all of this is, you can extend it to industry. You can even extend it to other areas of your day-to-day. Okay, so I guess what I want you to impart with today is, oh man, this is beyond me. I'm not going to be. No, I don't agree. You can do this, and you have an automatic niche. If you can't think of one at work, focus deep into the product management operations. So as a PM, this is what I interpret as what is success. You can translate business goals and customer problems to your product goals. You know your market, you know your competitors, and then you know what your consumers trend and the tech trends are, right? And you can combine it all to create the features that your customer needs. And you know how to prioritize, and you know how to drive the progress with your team. And of course, nothing is linear. You always have to test left, right, center. Split testing is an important part to continuously improve performance. So if these are your success criteria as a PM, these are all the steps from a day-to-day operation perspective on what you need to do. You need to have discovery and ideation, planning and roadmaps, and executing on a day-to-day basis. Each one of this is a proven PM a proven PM function that AI can already support. In fact, some of them has very specific AI tools to do it, but all you have to do is know that even if you don't want to think about having AI in here, just using AI within any of this and starting to document, starting to share your learnings, your failures, sharing successes, you can already be on your way to being a thought leader in a very specific niche. Okay? But this is actually where the excitement is, your bigger niche. And the best part about the bigger niche is that these areas are still undefined and there is no true answer. So the success on this, and I'll walk through one or two examples, is truly identifying trends and challenges within these areas. Then you need to form an informed view towards solutions. Now, it doesn't have to be right in the sense that it's correct answer. Why? Is because a lot of these really have no correct answers. It's really about what is the optimal answer. And of course, you can't be a thought leader if you're not a key voice among stakeholders. So if you have to take a screenshot, I would say this is the one you should take a screenshot on, because these are all the areas that are truly unknowns in the sense that it's not fully formed by even governments of the world, right? So there is future of work. How does work look like with AI? It's about finding productivity, how much productivity is worth, the cost of training models. And then do you want AI to be explainable? Should it be fully transparent? If yes, why? If not, why not, right? Now, sustainability is a big thing, climate change, and there's a lot of resources being consumed. AI training is very expensive. So how much should we spend on this? And if you are a big fan of really sustaining, like environmental, maybe this is an area that you should really focus on. This is one of my favorite topics that I always think about. Should we train AI more, or should we train a human, or should we train both? But how do we train both? It's because I really want to avoid a world where we leave humans behind, right? So, but what is the right level? Do we train kids in school to use AI? So there's so many questions about this, right? And of course, training the right data sets. Do we even have the permission to use people's data? Did they even say yes? And if they say no, how do we get it? Because without that, AI will not be truly intelligent. This one is a big deal. If you're into regulation, I think this is a really hot topic because the law is always trying to keep up, but it's not easy with a very fast moving environment. I like education. I'm in edtech. I believe education is very important, not even at the work level, but at the student level, right? And how much AI? What about people who have no computers at home? How do you help them? So there's so many of these questions, and I want you to just at least take a snapshot of this, because these are all open areas. There are no correct answers. There are no laws made on these. And I think if you want to form a view, one of these will be a good place to start once you have confidence and you're comfortable with your day-to-day PM and your operations. Okay, so one last chance for a screenshot, and I'm going to the next slide. 3, 2, 1. Now, we talk about thought leadership. Let's just be really clear what thought leadership is. If you are someone who has great understanding, super knowledgeable of a very specific subject, you are the go-to person for it. And you are the one that's providing practical applications, solutions. I'm sorry, you're merely an expert. And it doesn't automatically qualify you as a thought leader, because what you need to do as a thought leader is you have to be recognized and really influential within the wider industry or your niche. You can be a thought leader within your niche, but you need to be the leading voice in that niche. But what is really important that you need to have, in my opinion, by the way, is you can connect the dots and identify the trends, provide original or new insights. Ultimately, you want to be a thought leader because you're providing a new angle of looking at something. So the creative thought, seeing outside the box, is truly a key requisite. Some steps to help you get there. So we talk about finding your niche. By the way, the ones in blue is actually what you can do already in your day-to-day, right, in the company. Make a plan. I'll give you a little bit of a how-to in the next slide. You need to quickly build knowledge. Hopefully, I've given you a high-level overview, the tools. You can take more courses, listen to experts, talk to your customers, right, and then form your own niche within your customers. Of course, read the company pages of the big tech. But these two are the difficult bits: forming an opinion, and of course, you have to engage with the community. You cannot get away from this. You have to do this too. So what is important is, no matter what you do, always find the time to reflect, compose your thoughts, articulate through thought pieces, okay? And then in terms of the community, I will just give you one. There's a lot, but I only know this one that I can verify. So Hugging Face is a community where everyone who's building AI is here. It's quite technical because you probably need to know Python to download some of these models. But this is where everyone discusses. At least come here and see what's new, okay? Because it has one thing that's really cool, and I'll show you this. It has a chatbot arena where they compare all the different chatbots and LLMs and tell you what's good. And this is all graded by humans. So you have OpenAI at the top position, then you have Google, and Elon Musk's X, Twitter, is here in number 4, out of nowhere. They came through. Then you have Anthropic, you have Google, and so on. Okay, so Hugging Face is a really, really good place to come, if not just for the chatbot arena. And do this in the next 14 days, right? Pick a niche, but you need to develop a daily routine. And I can only say one thing, and that is consistency is the key. So pick a dedicated time, 30 minutes a day, anytime. When you're waking up, lunch, tea, before you sleep, probably better not before you sleep. Take notes, bookmark articles, and end of week, I want you to review and recap, read all your bookmark articles, note what's coming soon, reflect, right? And what's important is that you need to also speak with like-minded people. So start by keeping tabs of leading companies and follow the leaders from these companies. Don't follow too many people, just focus on these few for now, okay? And you need to join some communities. I'm going to spend the last section on building your brand. It's a short section, and that's why, but it's impactful, I hope, for you. So last but not least, Mr. Steve Jobs once said, "This is a very complicated and noisy world. We are not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. So we have to be very clear on what we want them to know about us." And he was talking about when he got back to Apple and they were not a market leader, and he was really trying to get them back into market leadership position, right? And what he did was he culled many things. But we all think of him as a great product leader. I definitely do. But I tell you what, he is an even greater marketeer, which brings me to a framework that I want to share with you after this slide. So if you look at a job spec, and I compiled a list of key responsibilities on AI capabilities for a PM role. So this is not a job spec from any specific company, but it's an amalgamation. It's a lot of things, and you might feel, oh, wow, I'm not sure how am I going to get in. I'm going to help you break it down because it's actually not as difficult as you think. If you were to strip everything back, basically there's these 5 components that you should really be good at. Know the tools. Nothing beats knowing the tools by having hands-on experience. So knowing the tools is just knowing what's out there. You don't have to use all of them. Preferably you do so that you can tell the difference. But it's also about staying up to date. It's about explaining and educating to your team. And of course, you have to be the leading voice, right? Because if you look at the language used, research and exploration of emerging Gen AI technologies, how it can be integrated into your product. Champion adoption in the company, educate teams on new AI technologies, stay up to date on industry and competitor trends. By the way, I didn't write any of these here. I compiled it from different job specs. And then, of course, this with your team, evaluating impact of AI technology. And all of this is actually key responsibilities that you can actually do over time. But you, again, baby steps today, right? And in terms of qualifications, experience in crafting prompts with a portfolio of examples. So you see, once you do, like I showed you how I use AI to draw some graphs, you don't have to do it in a work setting. You can actually just practice on your own. And of course, if you can translate and simplify technical AI concepts into practical applications in your company, it's actually very useful as well. And all of this, if you keep repeating this, you become the voice, a voice in your own company. So the framework I wanted to sell, which is an inspiration from Steve Jobs, is the build and sell framework. Now, as PMs, we always think of the build. Product marketing does the sell, but I tell you now that a good PM can build and sell. Why? Is because we are building our persona, our profile, and we're selling it, okay? The best product in the world without selling is no different in sales and metrics to a terrible product, right? So in terms of build, these are the things that you really should do. You need hands-on experience. I'm sorry, but it's like driving a car. You can't learn how to drive a car or swim by reading a book. You really have to do it. Then, of course, you need a portfolio of examples. So the more you do, catalog it into a portfolio examples, so that when you go into an interview, you can talk about it. And of course, what's important is craft your own narrative on experience. In terms of where to go, you have Hugging Face, TensorFlow. All of this is covered in Alex's first masterclass that's open to you. But these are all the areas you can go to just get more experience, to build. In terms of the sell, so when you go to an interview or when you're writing on your profile, on your LinkedIn or your CV, you need to find a way to demonstrate that you have hands-on experience and tell it in your own story. Everyone's story is unique. There are no bad stories. It's just bad storytelling. So tell your own stories. What is learnings for you? What have you failed in, right? And in itself is it's a good lesson, right? Failures are just lessons. And then, of course, explain your thought and creative process, because this is actually what us humans are really good at, right? So we have to really show how we went from step to step, what was our thought process. And from here, you start with your LinkedIn profile. Then you go to your resume. If you want to make it a bit more difficult, go to meetups, go to events and share your ideas. Get validation from people, or at least let people tell you you're wrong, and then go back and do more research, right? And then you have an external and internal view. So internal is within your own company, external is outside. And if you can, make content and share it online. Be a micro influencer, go on YouTube. For those who don't dare, you make content and teach. And it doesn't matter anyway, as long as you are out there sharing. And all of this ultimately will also help you because you demonstrate your mindset, a growth mindset, and a continuous self-improvement mindset. So on this note, I'm done. This is what we've covered. I've added one extra thing, and the next step is actually yours to take. And we've talked about building expertise, influence, and brand. It's a core loop. Okay, remember it all connects. And on this note, I really want you to take a step back, think of what you want to do, have a plan, and go from there. Because honestly, nothing is stopping you. Next step is all yours. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. I know it was a lot of information, but hopefully you got something useful out of it. Justin, what do we do next? Do we look at the chat?
Yes, go ahead and have a look at the chat. We've got a number of questions in there, and some have been upvoted. So you go ahead and answer those, and then I will tick them off as you answer them.
Cool. Okay. So Bessie, will we be included in upcoming topics to be added?
Not the
okay, yep, that one's
apologies,
fine.
not
Yep,
the chat.
I beg your
the,
pardon. I beg your
Q&A.
pardon. Yep. Okay. When the next courses are released, the reason I asked things. Okay, right. Okay, on the slide deck. So we will send this out to those who are learners.
GT, if you open
Yes.
up the Q&A setting on there's
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. I'm
Q&A
sorry.
tab. You'll notice some questions. There should be one from Richard there. And then
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, I see it now.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So Richard, I noticed no mention of Apple. Do you think the approach will prevail with a more consumer non-tech focused? Oh, so Richard, just to be clear, I don't think any less of Apple. To condense this, I picked the ones that were most relevant that I feel for your day-to-day. I think Apple has come up with their Apple Intelligence, and because they are so deeply ingrained in their hardware products, I actually think that Apple will be a big part of this ecosystem soon. So I would say for you, if you're an Apple person, I am, keep tabs of Apple too. There's a lot more that my deck was like double the size, right, with a lot more examples, but I just decided to show the top 5 to not overwhelm you. Are hallucinations a result of providing AI with too much data? Possibly, because hallucinations are things that you actually didn't train the data in, or it predicted something different. So too much data could do that if you overfit something, because then it gives a very narrow view. But it could be a lot of different reasons. It could be bias. It could be something that just slipped through the crack. It could be anything on the hallucinations. You talked a lot about big tech and the main AIs. Do you follow any startups less well-known or non-corporate thought leaders or more? Yep, good question. I will give you one. So Alex, who gave the first masterclass, he is actually a really good person to follow because he started in augmented reality and then he's now has his own startup in AI. Justin, if you can just post Alex's profile and his company, I think that would be great because he is somebody that I know personally, and I know that he is really an expert in this place. I don't want to give you other people because I think it's your own discovery. There's quite a few names out there, but once you start following the big leaders and you see who responds, for example, on Twitter, X, you can already see who the names are. But I guess I don't want to plug anyone, but I will plug Alex because he is really good. It seems like companies want you to know AI, but many, at least mine, may not be dedicating specific time or training. Have you experienced this? Okay, this is really interesting. There was actually a stat I was supposed to share that I didn't. Microsoft and LinkedIn, they together did a study, 31,000 people over 30 countries, and they had a really crazy stat where 66% of managers would prefer people to have to hire people with AI experience, and I think another 70% of them actually say they would prefer someone with more AI experience than less AI experience. And of course, then you come to a chicken and egg, right? It's like, hey, you need me to have AI, but you're not giving me any AI experience. What do I do? My advice for you, especially if you are not the employer, is nothing stops you from taking courses, doing your own research and start playing around with AI yourself. If you get better, you can actually even download things with Python and actually start coding on it. So there's a lot you can do even if you don't do it at the work environment. And at such point when your employer catches up and they want AI, you will be more than positioned to take and lead the charge. Okay, so there's a lot you can do already, and that's why I gave you the step-by-step what you can do in the next 14 days. How do you go from FP&A to being a product manager? Good question, Julia. I always thought that I would be a product person for 1 or 2 years so that I can go back to finance and be more rounded. I just had a lot of fun in product, but now I'm a product manager with a finance background. And I can tell you, my view of the future PM is a PM that is not only a pure PM, but a PM that can code, or a PM that can understand UX, or a PM that understands business, or a PM that understands marketing and growth, right? So as a PM, it's always good to have a secondary skill so that it really helps you. So my journey was more like serendipity. It was a plan to come back to finance, but I just never did. Based on your experience
I
in the
would just add
gaming,
GT.
sorry, Justin. Yep, go for it.
Yeah, I'll just add my experience too, because like GT, I
Yes.
actually came from accounting. I started in Deloitte's audit graduate program, and then I moved into investor relations. And for me, I went from an MBA to product management, and then eventually I became a designer as well. And in retrospect, and this is not just a plug for the company that I happen to work for now, but I would have been better off doing a specific course like our career accelerators geared towards product management or towards design in terms of like ROI, in terms of the cost spent on an MBA versus those specific courses. So for me, I did take courses. We had courses related to product management in startup methods at my MBA, and that helped me get into product management. But I would have been much better prepared if it was just specific on product management at that time. So yep, that's my story.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for sharing. I also want to say one thing. I made a lot of mistakes when I transitioned. Like I was failing left, right, center, and I was just very privileged that the company at the time, Playfish, which is part of EA, they are really amazing place, and I really learned a lot from them. And then I had my own startup, which I made even more mistakes. I was the product person there, and I learned so much from my co-founders, from my team. It's all just about learning, Julia, and it's really, it can be done. That's all I can say. Based on your experience in the gaming industry, are there any course skills you would recommend to start as a PM? Okay, so I am in the free-to-play part of games, which requires a lot of numbers crunching. So you need to really be actually very, very good in being numerate. You need to understand how retention links to monetization. Now, I know it sounds very technical, very deep. Start by reading the blogs on games and how they do calculations. I think start there first. And of course, there is a really important prerequisite. I know it's such a horrible thing to say, but you have to play a lot of games too, so that you understand the features and you understand what makes you tick as a gamer. Can you go from being a business analyst to product management? Yes, you can go from a chef to product management as well. Just 1 second. Yes, you can. It's just the will. It's about what do you want to do. And I would say rather than start from beginning, what you want to do is take what you have as an analyst. There's a lot of transferable skills, and look at a job spec of a product manager and see what are the transferable skills that you can already take away with you. But the courses that Justin was referring to will plug the rest of the gaps. Ultimately, it's about creating solutions for your customers and your users. You must understand the user. You are the heart and the voice of the customer. Binay, any companies from China to follow on AI advancement from your experience? Please reckon they're investing heavily in AI and outnumbered. Yes, that's right. I think I can't remember, was it last year, this year? They actually had more research papers on AI, and it's a growing place in technology, and it's very futuristic. Some of the bigger companies that you can follow are actually all the big names, just like big tech America, big tech China, like Baidu. You have Tencent, you have Alibaba, and there's a few more other companies. But I would say start with the big tech, see what they're doing, and go from there. If you are on Twitter X, what you can do is if you follow artificial intelligence as a topic, it will actually surface to you all the relevant companies and leaders on that. Every now and then, my feed is filled with like really amazing things that some companies do, and I always wonder, wow, who was it? Was it the US or was it China? And to me, it doesn't really matter, right? Code is code, tech is tech. If we all succeed, this world will be a significantly better place. So I'm just super open and looking forward to all the new things that's coming out and being inspired from it. Okay, I think that's the last of the questions. Thank you again, and I hope it wasn't so fast, but there was quite a lot to cover. And I would just say that you being here already is a first step on your path there. Keep it up, keep up the good work. Don't ever give up. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. And everything starts with one step. So congratulations on sitting through this, and I hope you enjoyed this. I really enjoyed giving this to you. So Justin, back to you, and goodbye everyone from me.
Thank you, everyone. We will be sharing the recording after the session in the next few days, so keep watch of your emails. And for learners and alumni, we will have some series again starting later this year and into next year. Everyone have a good day. Thank you, GT. Thank you, Sam.